Hey everybody, Zee Garcia here, and today we're taking a look at a drafting card game filled with flora. This is Flourish. Like I said, this is, at its core, a card drafting game. You're going to have a hand of cards, you are going to play one face down in front of you, and then pass one card to each neighbor. So a little different than the usual drafting where the hands go around. You'll reveal that card, you'll keep doing that, score a few times throughout the game, and then one big giant scoring at the end of the game. Most points is the winner. In this box, you've also got a couple of variants, a couple of alternate rules. You've got cooperative and competitive play. You've got solitaire play. So a lot of things have gone into this. Do those things add up to an interesting package? Well, let's take a look at the overview, and then we'll come on back on the other side, and I'll tell you what I think of it. Here we're starting off with a basic game for 3 players. Everybody has their own scoreboard, and we deal them a hand of 6 cards. You're going to be playing over 4 rounds, and at the end of the 4 rounds, whoever has the highest score is going to be the winner. And so, on your turn, you are going to, and this is simultaneous really, you're looking at the hand of cards you've got. You are going to select one that you'd want to play, put that face down in front of you, and then you are going to pass one card to this neighbor over the wall, and one to that neighbor over their wall, like that. The other players are going to be doing the same thing, so they'll put one in front of them, pass one to each neighbor like this, and then this player will do the same thing, play one, pass one to each neighbor like so. Once that's done, we are going to reveal the one that each player played. Just like that. And then once that's done, unless it's the third card of the round, at which point we score the abilities at the top based on the symbols at the on the side here of every card you've got in front of you. If that's not the case, as it is in the first and second card, you are going to gather the 2 cards that were passed to you, and you are going to draw one more card from the top of the deck, bringing you back up to 6, and then you do it again. Select one in front of you, pass one to each neighbor. Once a player has 3 cards in front of them, such as here, then we are going to, all of us, score these cards. So if I have these 3 at the end of my first round, I am going to score these abilities at the top. Any abilities that show up at the bottom, like this one, are end of game scoring, and you're going to score all the cards in front of you. The symbols along the side, like I said, are the things you're checking to give you symbols to score victory points. So this one is 1 point for each of these mushroom symbols. I'm going to get 3 for that. This one is 1 point for each of these flowers, of which I have none, and 1 point for each rose, of which I have 3. And then this one is 1 point for each of these 2 in one neighbor's or the other's garden. So I'm going to check over here, I'm going to check over there, and see which one gives me the most points, and then score those points accordingly. All right? Once you do that, and you've got another round of 3 after it, so let's say, for example, I play that card, and I play that one, and I play this one. Then I'm going to score these 3 cards, but I'm counting all the symbols. So this one's going to give me 1 point for each of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, nothing here, and then 1 point per rose. So even though I don't have any in this round, I'm still scoring 1, 2, 3. I will not rescore these abilities up here. Then we do that a 3rd time, and then a 4th time with a slightly different rule. So at the end of the 3rd round of 3 cards being gathered, you are going to end up having 3 cards in your hand, and 2 that were passed to you, like so. You're going to gather these up, but you will not draw a last card, bringing you up to just 5. And from these 5, you pick 3 to play. There's no drafting during the final 4th round. You then reveal these, you score any end of round abilities, and then you score end of game abilities on the bottom of the cards for everything, and whoever has the most points is going to be the winner of the game. Now, there are several expansions and variants in the box here, so I'll show you what that looks like. There's also, by the way, cooperative mode, which is basically what you just saw, except at the end of the game, we add up our 3 scores and then compare them to a chart on the back of the rulebook and see how well you did. So that chart right there. There's also solo mode, in which, same thing, you give cards to a dummy player, and at the end of the game, you subtract their score from yours, and you see how well you did based on a chart back here. Now, these things, you have the ability to play with these medals, in which you play a sequence of 3 games trying to accomplish different goals on these medals, and for every one you do, having the most of that kind of feature in this case, or the most of a kind of flower, then you are going to flip this over and score 7 points. You play 3 games, and at the end of all 3 games, whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. You can also play with these follies. You're going to have 5 of these, 1 of each different kind, and you are going to, at the end of every round, you may put these on any cards in front of you that show that flower at least once. So, let's take a look. End of the first round, for me right here, I score, just for this one, 2 points there, and then I may put this one, I can put this one here. You can also, before you do that, rearrange these 3 cards in that row, because at the end of the game, the way these work is you are going to score 2 points per flower shown on it, 2 points per flower on any orthogonally adjacent card, and 3 points for any card next to them that shows no symbols at all along the side. So let me find one like that one. Alright, so if this is what this looks like at the end of the game, assuming this was the first round, and I put one of these guys here, and this was the second round, okay? Then I'm going to score for this one, right now anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this one gets me 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Because this one has no symbols, no flowers along the side there, alright? So that's how that works. There's also then the final 4th round where you just put out 3 at the same time. You can put them anywhere around this 3x3 structure. So you could put this card here to score for this one. I could put this card, I don't know, here, and one over here, okay? Any of these you don't place of the 5 you have is minus 5 points. And they have to go again on a card that has that flower, that symbol, but not during the 4th round. These 3 don't get anything on them. You have to put them out during the first 3 rounds of the game. And you can put out more than one in the same round, okay? That's fine. That's one of the expansion modules. And then the other one has these animal companions, which is a small deck of cards here, in which you are going to shuffle these up. Everybody gets 2. They give you some sort of scoring opportunity for the end of the game, and at the end of the game you score 1 of them. And they have all sorts of different things, basically different symbols that you are looking to gather and then score for them. So 3 of these, 5 points. Every one of these symbols is 5. Every beehive is 4, and so on. That's basically it. There's a couple of other variants, but they're more like hand management variants. Like the compost variant lets you discard a card every time you would draw new ones, and then you would pick these 2 up, and instead of drawing 1 from the deck, you draw 2 because you just discarded 1, so they let you cycle through the deck a little bit faster. But that's basically it. And again, all of these things, every piece of cardboard in here, and most of what's in here, is for that one Follies variant. The game, the core game, besides obviously the scoring boards here, is really just the deck of cards. Alright, so let's go back up top. Let me tell you what I think of it. Flourish here falls into a category of games that, for me, makes them very difficult to review. And that is games that are perfectly pleasant. Games in which I like several of the aspects that that game presents. And yet they are distracted by things that are unnecessary. They are, for every interesting thing, there's something in there that I wish was a little bit different, that I thought was an ill-conceived add-on or idea, a game that wants to please everyone and therefore loses some of its identity along the way. That's what I think, anyway. Let's go ahead and break it down, shall we? We're going to start from the top here. So, theme and thematic ties. Like many other games, there are a ton of games with a flora theme lately, right? You've got, there's so many of them in which you're growing a garden, growing flowers, planting flowers, what have you, all of these things. This is yet another one of those. Like many of those games, the theme here is really more window dressing than anything else. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why you're drafting the way you're drafting I don't really understand it. Why you're scoring off of your would-be opponent's gardens, I'm not sure I understand. Why you would gain, I don't know what it is, glory based on how good their gardens are. But it's pleasant. It's hard to have an objection to this theme. And so I'm not knocking it down. You're really not going to use it to teach the game, but it's fine. It's pleasant. You can sit down and enjoy being in this world for a little bit. The aesthetics are very good. They, for the most part. I think the card quality, and by the way, this game is those cards. I'll talk about this more in a little bit here, but the game is a pack of cards. Those cards are very nice. They're high quality cards. They've got gorgeous illustrations on them, and so that is very nice. I think the ratio of core game, which is that deck of cards, to expansion stuff, which is 3/4 of what's in the box, is a little off. It seems strange to me that the base game is could be a small deck of cards, and yet this is a big box, is almost Ticket to Ride size, and most of it is optional content. It's variants or expansions. So that seems a little off. I also wish the iconography was a little bit better. I think it's functional. I think it's okay. I also think it could be a little bit stronger. Replay value. The core game, that deck of cards, that straight up drafting game, I think it's good. And there are a lot of distractions around that. Some of them are nice. For example, I think the little friends companion, little animals that score extra points for you, that's nice. A little extra deck of cards, very nice. I think all those cardboard structures range from sometimes interesting to sometimes they pull away from what feels like the core experience by distracting you when you should be thinking about how to make all your cards work well together, but you're instead thinking about how to arrange them. That's not even a thing in the core box, in the core game. There's no geometry. And yet with this expansion, this variant thrown in there, now suddenly you need to worry about this whole other thing, and it sort of distracts from the simplicity, the beauty, the combos in the original game. I also think the game's not very good at 2 players. I don't know why this says 2 players. You lose most of the aspects that make this game this game. That passing a card over the wall, very cute idea, gone. Comparing things with both your neighbors, that's gone. There's too much that's different. I don't think it's a good 2-player game. And then Solitaire, same thing. I don't think this is a good Solitaire game. They both feel flaccid. They're not bringing what the game at 3 or more is like. They lose too much of that game's identity. All right, game arc. The fun in the 4th or the 3rd round isn't too different. The tension from the first. So the game's it has a bit of a curve. It's nice to be able to score a card late in the game that now you have a lot more symbols for it, but it's not that dissimilar. I also think there's quite a bit of scoring, especially endgame scoring, where once the game is over, once the game feels over, I should say, you still then have to now score, 12 cards for everybody at the table. Those dials are really large. The score could go into the hundreds. That's a lot of scoring, it feels to me. So I thought the game, and it's also very, very much it feels solitaire-ish, okay? It's not as, this type of drafting, for some reason, doesn't feel as dramatic as a hand that moves around and you can track where that hand is. And so if I'm playing with several people, I know that the cards I saw, whatever's left, is coming back to me, and I'm hoping you have that tension of Don't take the card I wanted. There were 2 cards in that hand I wanted. That's not really there. Sometimes you end up in the situation where the same card gets passed to this player, then they pass it back, and then you pass it back to them, and they pass it. So that happens. Yeah, I think you're getting it. Ease of play, I think it's very nice. It's an easy game to follow. Rules make sense. No problem there. The only issue being, again, a little bit of the iconography can be tricky, but the game is easy. There's no denying that. And then lastly, tactics, luck, strategy. I think it's good. I think it's got some nice tactics to it. There's certainly luck, yeah, but it's got some nice tactics to it. Again, I think the expansions are very distracting from the core game, which I think could be stronger on its own. This is the kind of game that I think, if it was just that drafting game, drop that 2-player nonsense and the solitaire thing, if it was just a deck of cards and a drafting game, would be a lovely little drafting game with a little bit of a twist to the drafting. Is the drafting the new way to draft going forward? No, I think it's a nice diversion from usual drafting, and it works. But then all of this other stuff, this gigantic box for, there's no room wasted, don't get me wrong. The components fit in there correctly. It's just all these components that don't do much. And they feel like stretch goals, you know? A lot of the content in here just feels like extra stuff that was added on to this very nice little core idea of a game that it's so hard to see now because there's all these growths on it. It's kind of disgusting. I'm grossing myself out. Anyway, that's kind of how I feel about it. I do like a couple of things. I like being able to keep a card in your hand, like a card you drew in your opening hand. Because of the way this drafting works, you could be able to keep that card till the very last round of the game, because you never give away your whole hand. So that's nice. I like that about it, okay? So I enjoy some aspects of it. And again, I think at its core here, there's a neat game. Overall, that's how I feel about this game. There's just all these other things that I find distract from the entire package. I wish this was, this reminds me of another recent game with a very similar theme, a kind of similar gameplay, which is Village Green from Osprey Games. Village Green comes in this tiny little package. It's a similar idea at its core, building something. That one's got a lot more geometry to it, the sort of, you're having to deal with these patterns that you're creating in order to score as many victory points as possible. And the idea is, it's beating heart is right there at the top. It's beautiful. If this was like that, same game, small card game, little package, and it could shine, I'd feel more inclined to recommend this game. I really would. As it is now, it's kind of like, buying the whole farm before you know whether you like the milk. Is that a thing people say? I don't know. So I'm not sure who this is quite for. It's probably for people who already backed it, I'm guessing, or if you love card drafting games and you want another one, or you love this theme and you want another one, because there are quite a few, again, of both of those things. So overall, while I don't dislike this game, it's a hard one to recommend to folks. If you could just buy the game first and then get this extra stuff, maybe I'd say, yeah, pick up that deck of cards. But you might not like any of it technically, but you might just like that game and then have all this cardboard you don't want. So there you go. Anyway, I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. Again, neat game. I liked it. Don't play with 2. Don't play solo, in my opinion. And I hope you like the expansion, because you'll have a bunch of cardboard just sitting in there if you don't. That's it for me. That is Flourish, everybody. Thanks for checking this out with me. I'm Zee Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.